Greetings, fellow targeted individuals. I used to chat with a TI named John Lang from Fresno, California. And there's a lot to his story that is not covered by people making documentaries about him. You really have to watch many different videos about him to truly understand what he went through, and also talk to people that were close to him and knew him personally. See, he asked me to visit him prior to his death, along with other TIs. He wanted somebody to stay with him. He had reached a point where his targeting was so bad that he no longer felt comfortable in his environment. He felt unsafe at his residence, at gas stations, where he worshiped, where he walked, where he worked, did anything, where he ate. It had reached a point where he was being harassed and disrespected in stores. He would be followed by groups of people sometimes. Sometimes these groups were comprised of surveillance teams of over 10 people. And they would go into stores and harass him and flag him as a problem. He'd be harassed in gas stations by gas station clerks. He'd be harassed in his neighborhood by neighbors sometimes that were police partners. And police would visit them and state that he was a person of concern. And he grew more and more isolated to the point where the only people that he could turn to were TIs, because his relationships were decimated. When you tell people what you're experiencing, a lot of people want to avoid you like the plague. They see you as a toxic person, and let's face it, most people are just concerned about their life, their finances, and their safety. And when their friends are truly hurting, that's when you find out who your real friends are. No one really wanted to support him besides TIs. So it appears that he took his own life, but wanted to set it up as if police did it. See, he was frustrated that police and people within the government could target him in a manner based on deniable plausibility, but do it in a systematic manner for many, many years and not get prosecuted or arrested or even investigated. So that really pissed him off, because the harassment was so much. He no longer wanted to live. After his wife left him over the targeting, he found life almost pointless, because he couldn't enjoy his house. He couldn't enjoy taking a walk, eating out, shopping, because it was all the time being harassed. And surveillance was being used as a weapon against him, versus surveilling the people that were doing the corrupt acts. The government surveilled him. And you could find out which agency is most likely behind this, because a lot of times these U.S. government vehicles will have the number for the tag, but then on the side there may be some numbers going downwards which are linked to the agency which was working with police. When he installed security cameras, he continued to talk about people spying on his place. But he said it was so much that he would literally have to spend hours a week to take snapshots of all the different things. He just saved like clips of the most important things. And he told me that there would be days that he'd be on the road and he would notice that this car would be following him down every single street. And sometimes they would just come with one headlight and just follow him around. He did have a few friends in the area, and there was a time where he had turned to another friend, and even his friend noticed it. And what they would do is follow him with one headlight and then flash the light, and they would follow him for like 12 blocks and then pull off the road. So they were trying to sensitize him to flashing lights, a one headlight, so that way if he's seen a car with one headlight behind him, he would be wondering, is this person a perpetrator? So they wanted to sicken him to the point where he became delusional. But that did not happen. He never became delusional, but that was their intentions through many years of doing the same exact thing. And there are cases where some people experience similar strategies for so many years that they become sick. They no longer feel comfortable dating. They no longer feel they can trust other people. They have become so isolated they crack. They disassociate. So you really need to have a strong mind, stay prayed up, because unfortunately in every state I have noticed aspects of law enforcement concealing these activities on reports. So you can't trust cops. You cannot trust your FBI, anything tied to DOD. Most of our troops are good people, but they are interagency partners with your FBI, CIA, NSA, DNI, DHS. Trust none of them. Unless we get Trump back in office. Well, actually, he already won the election. But once he gets back in office and these Democrats are pushed out, hopefully things will change, because nothing is really changing. These corrupt actors are still abusing the system to the point where people can't even enjoy their lives. Now, it is illegal to violate people's privacy. If you're watching a sunset and cars pull up around you and they harass you every time you go there, that's not an investigation. They're violating your space and your privacy, and they're trying to provoke a reaction. I know how it is to go through this every day. Let's say I wake up at 7:20 in the morning. I go for a 1-mile bike ride, and then I'm harassed a few times. When I get to the front entrance of where I lived at, I'll be harassed. There'll be a U.S. government vehicle there. I have pictures. When I get to my house, a neighbor may walk out of his house, go to the driveway, whistle 5 times really loud, and go back in every time I was coming and going. And it'd always be a veteran. And then let's say I go to the supermarket later on that afternoon. A car may pull up, walk up to me and go, "Sss." Then it may happen in the supermarket. The person has no products, walks up to me, does that, and then walks out and leaves. Then I go to the library, same thing. Then I go later on get gas, same thing. Then I go visit a relative, same thing. Then I go out to eat at a restaurant, same thing. Then I get home, same thing. So they present a pattern. And they may follow and harass you systematically to sicken you. This is to destroy your life and to cause mental harm. They want you to be under a state of mental anguish, anxiety. So that way, when you talk to people about this, it may appear that you're crazy. And that is what the Stasi did. They did things in a very minute manner based on deniable plausibility to drive their victims to insanity. And you won't believe he's been doing this for a long time. Your CIA. They've been utilizing MK Ultra tactics, your DOD, especially the Army. My grandfather's fought and served in the Army. I have relatives which have served with them. I don't hate them, dislike them, but there are unfortunately groups in the Army which are partners with the CIA. And a lot of disabled veterans, you may notice, are in this, but when they're investigated by private investigators, they may find that more than 50% of these people with disabled tags are in gyms, lifting heavy weights, jogging for miles, and have very active lives. But they're disabled, right? Well, a lot of it's really PTSD. If you have PTSD, you're not going to get a disabled veterans, disabled handicap placard. But if you're a veteran, you will, most likely. So there are people which know how to abuse the system, and they've been abusing the system because they couldn't hang in the military. They come out here and become a contractor or join a different federal agency and sign up as a veteran-owned business, so that way they have a little sympathy from the government. And then if you're in the area of any of these groups, they'll target you sometimes on behalf of an agency or a corporation. There are sheriff's associations in this. In every state that I've lived at, in every state, I've always dealt with sheriffs. I have always dealt with families, business owners, offices of community engagement tied to universities. So we need to look through our national security apparatus, their partners, FBI, CIA, DHS, and we need to look to see, are they using religious groups? Are they using university students, offices of community engagement? Are they utilizing this whole community-based approach movement? Are they using HHS and different groups to target people like, remember, DHS whistleblower Julia Davis and many other people? Are they writing them off as terrorists when they're not and mentally ill to justify these activities done based on mobbing? And we need to look to see who has a GSA number, because from what it looks like, the CIA has been utilizing the GSA to list its contracts discreetly. So that way, it's not linked to them. And then they go out and they allow these contractors to go out and harm the target, harassing them in stores and in the community where they walk, treating them as if they're the threat and problem. Because from what I'm documenting, fellow TIs, it shows a lot of Marines, U.S. Air Force, Army, Naval, ex-military, a few times active duty military here in Florida. So they're pretty much just trying to neutralize you. In a situation like this, where you go to Congress, you go to county attorneys. I mean, I went to county attorney and showed them a video where it showed a male Barbie doll noose. I mean, a male Barbie doll hanging from a noose with the word "spick" across his chest, dripping in what looked like ketchup or blood. Don't know what it was. And it was on my car. When I went to them, they came out with a guy with a gun, pacing back and forth, huffing and puffing. When I'm there to report a crime because police didn't want to investigate. And then I got proof police were providing inaccurate reports, hiding information, tag numbers. Why would they do this? So they want to conceal the threat. See, our police departments and sheriff's departments now are all under this these interagency partnerships. So if you're dealing with anybody, any sheriff's department, police department that has an interagency partnership with the government, you can't really trust them, because they're going to take their word over your word. They have partnerships with DNI, RISS networks, HSIN communities. And what they say is going to be taken as the gospel truth. So if they say you're a threat, you're a terrorist, you don't have a right to have a fair trial. You don't have a right to access your Privacy Act request so you can amend those records to share your proof, which would most likely make this trash doing this look like a domestic terror threat. Because trust me, if you were to do what the FBI and CIA do and their partners, you would be on a terrorism watch list. But when they do it, it's okay. Say no to violence, fellow TIs. And if you have the money and it's too much to live here, you can't handle it no more, look at places like Nicaragua, maybe even Russia. After 3 years, you can get citizenship under a work visa. Serve in their military for a year, you're a citizen. When the government is no longer able to uphold the Constitution and has to utilize secret law to do acts which present pre-terrorism indicators, that means we no longer have a constitutional form of government, but enemies of the United States hiding behind our flag. If you call them and they slam phones on you, like I've documented, you can't trust them. There are TIs that have tried calling them, and then later on they were told, "Oh, we can't help you." Then they did something really stupid because they didn't want to help. So we are on our own, fellow TIs. We have to work to uphold our constitutional rights, because the enemy is not going to. They're not pro-government. Because if they were pro-government, they would support the Constitution and protect it from all enemies, both foreign and domestic. But many people within upper management of these groups have become the threat. They have become no different than a national security threat, homeland security threat, and a terror threat. Because if you were to do what they were doing, you would be on a terrorist watch list. Say no to violence. God bless. Peace.